So hey guys, it's Plotzalot here with another My Hero Academia What If video, and today we're going to be doing part 5 of What If Deku was Iron Man. So before we start the video, there's a link to the Discord in the description. Click that please, join the Discord. We're trying to grow the community there, interact with you guys there, so appreciate if you join. But let's get started. So after the exam, Deku heads home. He's sure that his embarrassing performance against the 0-point robot that wasted so much time for him would be counted against him. Everybody else was spending that time, after they got over the fact that there was a giant robot, destroying more of the, 1, 2, and 3-point robots, actually gaining more points, and that is put him at a disadvantage, he feels. He spends the next few weeks anxiously awaiting the arrival of the single letter that determines his destiny, essentially. He upgrades his suit and trains his body to withstand more. After passing out in the exam, Deku realizes that his body isn't up to scratch with his technology. He can think fast, but without the suit he can't react fast enough physically to make any sort of difference. He needs to be strong in general. He starts training as he does in the original series, but he tailors his workout regimen to be much more effective by researching sports science for an afternoon essentially, and he gets pretty good at it. Deku continues to upgrade his suit, now in a sweet ass basement he built under the house without his mother knowing. Using the money from his medicine company, he realizes that his propulsors could be switched to an advanced form of photonic propulsion. He has the money to do it, and it's essentially flying using laser beams. Not only is it cool, it's also potentially very effective. This addition would also allow for his thruster's purpose to be more varied, switching wavelengths and power outputs to do everything from blinding his opponents to melting through solid steel. Deku decides to test his new gauntlets on the armor plating of his own suit, aiming a blast and firing, which utterly destroys the piece in front of him, leaving behind nothing but a molten mess on the floor and some smoke slowly curling into the air. He notices a couple problems with his suit. Number one, that blast used up all of the battery life for his suit. He doesn't have enough power. Batteries aren't going to cut it. Deku researches materials technology and employs a new alloy of titanium, steel, and tungsten to deal with the second issue. It provides high tensile strength, relatively no density for its strength, and heat resistance. Deku coats the new suit in a layer of iron-infused aerogel particles, and he paints it with a yellow trim on the edges just to spruce it up a little bit, and names the final product the Mark III. So now that his armor plating's done, it's a lot more effective. The blast no longer destroys it, it actually only leaves a tiny mark on it, and because of the aerogel, it actually kind of fills in a little bit. It's very effective and relatively better. It's lighter and stronger, and it also has heat resistance, so he's very happy with the product. But the fact that his gauntlets still only last one shot essentially with this new power output is a big problem, because Deku needs to be able to fire lots of these shots. He doesn't want his suit to give up like it did in the exam, but instead in the middle of an actual battle, or godforsaken, if it happens in one of the UA test exams, he doesn't want to be kicked out. After all the effort of trying to get in, if he does get in, he doesn't want to be kicked out, even though that's looking a little bit unlikely to him at the moment. The equipment was updated, and he notices it's a bit more energy efficient. His suit's lighter, and it's a little bit better for his power, but the battery life on the suit was still appalling to Deku. It failed him when he needed it most, and a visit to the ITER nuclear fusion reactor in France got him acquainted with the technology. An older nuclear fusion reactor from the earlier 21st century helped him determine the problems with miniaturizing one. But Deku saw this as a challenge, if anything. It was kind of fun for him, and up to the day of the UA decision letter arriving, Deku sits in his little basement and builds his miniature fusion reactor, and doesn't really get to see the letter until later that evening, because he was busy finishing the reactor and implanting that into his suit, and he calls it the arc reactor because it's extremely efficient for its size and produces a massive power output. It can run for essentially ever. He barely ever needs to charge it, maybe needing to charge it every 2 to 3 years with new fuel, but before that it's basically just infinite power supply unless he massively overstretches and essentially breaks the components on his suit. He's not going to be running out of energy anytime soon, although it does have a maximum power output. So he does need to keep in mind that to actually use more of the powerful attacks, he is going to have to charge them, and that's okay for Deku for now. It can power when he needs it. It can provide the power when he needs it. It can power his gauntlets for repeated attacks. It can help. It can keep him flying for essentially ever. And he's happy with the result, so he plugs it into the suit and finally heads upstairs to see the letter from UA. The day of the UA decision letter has arrived now, and Deku didn't see it, but now he's got a nice surprise. He gets to see All Might. What was really surprising to Deku was the offer that UA put forward. He scored more than high enough for the hero course, but they also recognized his technical talent, realizing that he was Iron Man, he was the CEO of Iron Medicines, and they wanted him to study alongside the support course as well, because not only was he a hero, he was also a genius, and his technical talent needed to be used, and it needed to be maintained. So Deku sits there pondering for a bit, wondering, what does that mean, as Principal Nezu actually finishes off. I believe you have the capability, hence, you'll be a part of the hero course and study some of the support course's more specialized sessions. We hope to see you with a response, he finishes. Deku agrees to the offer and is placed in both classes, although he'll attend homeroom and most basic courses with the hero course alongside all of the specialized hero course sessions, only attending support course classes for more of the advanced classes that the support course would be studying. For example, the support course would probably study more advanced mathematics, sciences, and support item sessions, and so Deku would be attending those, and he would also be attending some of the specialized support course sessions whilst the regular sessions would be going on for the hero class. This way he maximizes what he's learning, but also gets to experience the main parts of both courses, and hence he gets a much more advanced education than both of the counterpart classes, basically getting to learn how to design support items better, and also learning to become a hero, which is why he went to UA in the first place. But he's not turning down the offer to also mess with gadgets, because Deku loves doing that, so, you know, it's not happening. His entire kind of hero thing basically relies on these so-called gadgets, so learning more about them? Yes, please. Deku walks in on his first day, and he's working on something the morning before, but it's essentially just a cosmetic upgrade, upgrading the trim, making it look a little bit nicer. His new and lighter backpack shines a gleaming red and yellow with a little central light for where his fusion reactor is, his arc reactor. Deku walks in and sees Ida and Bakugo squabbling over sitting on a table. Bakugo, being calmer in this timeline, eventually gives up and sits down with a bit of fuss, letting Aizawa begin the class on time. Deku recognizes him using his inbuilt facial recognition software in his mind's computer, and he fanboys a little bit. A homeroom teacher's a Razorhead, he thinks? All the UA teachers, they really are pro heroes, he thinks to himself. He says this out loud, and it causes everyone to throw up a storm, either having heard of him as the teacher who fails entire classes by rumor, or never having heard of him at all and not understanding what the fuss is about. But Aizawa silences them all. He tells them to get their uniforms on for the Quirk apprehension test, and just before leaving he drops a little sentence that worries everyone. Whoever comes last in these tests is expelled from UA, and then he just walks out. Everyone heads out. Deku's a bit nervous as he's not exactly sure if he can use his suit, and so after everyone's left he asks Aizawa a question. Would it be okay to use my suit? I built it myself and, it is an extension of my, but before he can continue, Aizawa just says, do whatever, kid. Just make sure you don't come last. I need to know you have potential. Deku smiles and presses the button on the back of his costume, suiting up and heading to the field where everyone is standing around waiting for the test to begin. Bakugo sees Deku and he's kind of annoyed. Oh look, it's the rich boy with the fancy costume. I think you're a cheat, Deku. You're weak without that thing, he shouts. Deku responds by opening his helmet and asking a question back. If you could build a suit, I'm sure you could use it, Mr. Two Quirks. Everyone's a bit surprised, they didn't know Bakugo had two quirks. and Bakugo looks annoyed for a moment before settling down, realizing that his main source of power does come from an inherited source technically, so he doesn't have much to say. His power isn't his own either. The test begins, and it starts with the 50-meter dash. Ida bursts forward with his engines only reaching 3rd gear, and he ends up getting a pretty fast time of 3.04 seconds. Ida's pretty confident that nobody can beat his Quirk's speed until Bakugo steps up. He activates One for All through his body at 15%, activating his explosions behind him, and blitzing towards the finish line with a single jump in 1 second flat. Ida and pretty much everyone else there looks shocked. Wait, your Quirk lets you do that? No, you learned to do that. I still have much to learn, it seems, mutters Ida to himself, before walking away both angry and optimistic about the results, realizing that he still has things to learn, but also that his main thing, his speed, isn't actually the best. Next is Deku's turn, and as soon as the run starts, Deku rotates himself horizontally to the ground, parallel to the ground, and activates his new thrusters at maximum power, shooting towards the end like a bullet and achieving a score of 1.24 seconds, just slower than Bakugo, as his suit didn't have the distance or time to fully engage, similar to Ida's engines. The rest of the tests are easier for Deku, since the test boosts his mobility and speed fairly significantly, and his brain's computer already allows him to process information efficiently and quickly, so there's no problems for him. But finally comes the ball throw. Bakugo throws the ball as hard as he can with One for All, using an explosion just as it leaves his hand, sending it flying, and it reaches a distance of 1,961 meters, much further than everyone else besides Ochako, who, scored infinity, as her ball throw theoretically never stops, since, she doesn't really get gravity on it, except, air resistance would kind of stop it, but let's not fear from the original storyline too much. Deku's throw attempt arrives, and his knees are feeling weak, his arms are heavy, there's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. So he's nervous, but he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. I'm kidding, but he looks nervous, but he is ready because he knows that he can do stuff. His power source is much more reliable. He's not going to just drop because he can't handle the weight of the suit. He's got a nuclear fusion reactor powering his suit, giving him much more room to flex the full power of his suit. He's got time to charge up as well, and the thrusters in his palms whir to life as he holds the ball in both of his hands at a roughly 45-degree angle to the ground. It's slightly adjusted for the differing height because he solves the differential equation in his head necessary for the maximum horizontal distance, and it comes out whenever you're a little bit above the ground to actually be not exactly 45 degrees, so that's that. But Deku's smart enough to do all this stuff in his head, and he knows all this stuff already, so he does it. He wants to get the best score he can on this. He's determined to show his potential to Aizawa. The whole point of this, he guessed already, was that he wants to weed out anyone who doesn't have potential, and he definitely wants to show that he is there. The reactor core whirs to full power as his palms grow a bright blue, pushing the ball into the air with a massive laser beam at multiples times the speed of sound, causing several sonic booms as a result, leaving spiraling vortex rings of dust from the ball and layers from the ball shedding off from the sheer air pressure in front of it behind the ball's trajectory as it's catapulted forwards. 2,065 meters, reads Aizawa in a surprised tone. He knew the suit was strong, but that distance is just insane. Strength surpassing most of the top heroes in basically a kid. It's still not as surprising as Bakugo though, whose result was based purely off his own strength and quirks. Both were very impressive students indeed, and he knew he was gonna have to keep watching them. His class seems to have some potential. At the end of the test, Mineta is expelled though. He was only spared in the original timeline since Deku came last, but Aizawa sees very little potential in him, despite seeing potential in most of the rest of the class. Even Invisible Girl has more potential than him technically, in Aizawa's eyes, because she got higher marks, so he's out.
he's gonna live by his promises. The only reason he spared Deku is because he did see potential in him, but he didn't see that in Mineta. So Mineta's out. Yeah, I think that's where I'm actually gonna leave this one. Thank you guys for watching. This one's another kind of longer video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye guys. Also, if you liked the video, like, subscribe, you know, leave a comment, all that kind of stuff. Thank you, bye.